take a roll.
Right. Chair Bernard.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Humberston.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Great.
And Martha's on her way. So first up, we have a motion to consider. And Paul?
Yeah, I move to authorize the expenditure of road funds pursuant to Board Order 2020-66 to undertake emergency repairs to portions of Palmer Road, a local access road caused by wildfires, and to direct staff to seek reimbursement to the extent practical from state and federal government to recover these costs.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and I'm not going to read it since I don't have it up. Paul's motion. Any further discussion? Christina, please poll us.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Humberston?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
I'm going to have to abstain. I have problems getting into the link this morning. I've tried 2 different pieces of equipment, finally got in. So I don't know what you just discussed, but I'll abstain. Okay.
And Chair Bernard?
Aye, motion carries 4 yes and 1 abstain. Next item, Gary.
Great, thank you. Next, if we could bring in Nancy Bush, please. We'll have our wildfires update. Yes, hello, good morning, Nancy. As soon as you're ready, wildfires update, please.
Good morning, everyone. So a couple things to let you know before I actually go through the wildland fires and what's going on there. I wanted to let everyone know that we are working on the permitting process and alternatives there with DTD, because we realize that we probably are going to have some alterations to do to help people to get moving again. DTD plans on having those recommendations to the board the first week of October. We are continuing to move forward with our debris and damage assessment. Again, we do have a team that is in here working with us that we have contracted with, which was actually in our plan that we completed in March. And they've been working very diligently where they can to get in and to look at properties. And we continue to learn more about damages here in Clackamas County. Our road assessments are continuing. We are starting to be able to get in just a little bit into the Riverside fire, just to check roads and bridges, just so everyone knows that has to be done before anything opens back up to the public going into the area. So they're working very hard to making sure that those are safe as well, and they're doing that as quickly as they possibly can. Before I go into the fires, I also want to remind everyone that our Riverside and our Beachy fire are both under federal jurisdiction here in our county. The other fires, which includes Under, Wilhoit, and Graves, are all under local control and the U.S. Fire Marshal control. And I know that gets a little confusing for everyone, but I just want to remind everyone that we have a couple jurisdictions that we're working with when we talk about our fires. So we'll start with Riverside. Our Riverside fire, this is as of yesterday. The update for this fire is right now as I speak. So this is of last night, was 137,880 acres and is 25% contained, which is a very, very good number. So the rains, of course, have slowed the fire there, but there's a lot of fuels that are still burning, and they still are looking at those, the large fuels in the perimeter that they're working on. They want to let everyone know too that they will continue to see smoke coming out of Riverside fire. There are, especially as things start drying out a little bit, that we're going to be having rain a little bit later this week. But vegetation continues to burn, and they do get a lot of reports that, well, we still see smoke, and it's like, we will still see smoke because it's not completely out and probably won't be for several weeks. The Beachy Lion's Head fire in Clackamas County, there's 46,319 acres that has been burned, and it is 38% contained. They're anticipating minimal fire activity there, and of course it will continue to smolder as well. And there are areas, of course, that rain cannot penetrate. Again, we'll see smoke coming from this fire for quite some time. Unger Fire is 497 acres. Dowdy is 1,509. Wilhoit is 534 acres. Graves is 44 acres, and it is 100% contained. And then the containment for Dowdy, Unger, and Wilhoit fires combined is 56%. We're not able to get numbers on each of those individually, but we're trying to get that today and working through our fire contact to do that.
Nancy?
Yes.
Yeah, would you email those numbers? I couldn't write that fast.
Yeah, and actually it is in the situation report that you received last night.
Okay, I'll look at, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Backyard debris burning is prohibited within the North Cascade Fire District until July 6th, or under the July 6, 2020 restrictions proclamation. So we just wanted to remind everyone that as well, that backyard debris burning is still prohibited, even though we have had some rain. So that is my update on.
Nancy, may I bug you one more thing? Evacuation numbers. Do we know how many people evacuated and how many people have returned?
So I know what we have right now, but I don't have total numbers. I do know it was around, I think our top number of evacuees was around 208,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But right now we have a level 3 at 3,171. Level 2 is 4,008. And we still have around 17,000 at level 1.
All right. Paul had a question.
Yes.
Yeah, Friday, I believe, I was on a call with Congressman Schrader in regards to the fires, and included in the call were commissioners and officials from Marion County, Lincoln County, and of course Clackamas County. There was a gentleman, I can't remember his last name. Sonia joined me on that call as well. His first name was Ken, and he apparently worked for FEMA for years. Very knowledgeable, shared a lot of information. But what was interesting, and maybe you can shed some light on this, Nancy, I'm a little bit concerned, is that he's retired, so things probably have changed, I get that. But he was indicating that, or expecting that, the need or time to file all these claims for damages under FEMA as a result of the wildfires was probably longer than it was more immediate. And I will say longer in the sense that, I don't want to characterize that, but I was assuming that it was probably a week or two from now. So it seems impractical, frankly, that, especially for areas that are flooding, for example. We're not in a flood, but that it takes time to really get in there and make these assessments. So is there other deadlines or appeals that can be made? It just seems like we're spending a lot of energy trying to assess damages and in a rushing way when it's just not practical.
So I've been doing this.
The fire's not over.
Yeah, I've been doing this a very, very long time. Okay, so here's what happens. Our initial damage assessment for public infrastructure in particular is due this Friday. It's very typical. And it doesn't matter, even with the larger hurricanes, there's a really short period, and it is initial damage assessment, so we can start getting a handle on what's going on. That's the way it's been. I've been doing this for 15 years. So that is, and I've done this is like my 19th or 20th federal declaration. So that is how it's done. What happens then after that point, they know that more things are going to come in. They know some of the things on the list probably won't qualify. They're going to have questions about, things that come in. But after we get that initial damage assessment done, then we continue to move forward, and we continue to collect data, and we continue to send it into FEMA. So that's just the way the system has worked for many, many years.
Okay, so there is opportunity that if we don't find something on the initial, we can on the follow.
Right.
Follow up on that. And I just want to make sure that I express, you know, or inquire to how the system actually works for those who've actually been displaced and had their property damaged or lost their homes. So I'm really concerned about, I'm hearing about the red tape. I'm hearing about people being denied already. I don't know necessarily if they're Clackamas residents or they're Marion County residents, but I picked up on that. So I'm extremely, whatever we can offer those people that have been devastated by these fires, whatever assistance and education we can have ourselves as to FEMA processes, so we can better understand the gaps.
Sure, and we are, of course, working right now with FEMA to set up the resource center. We have already been working with our Clackamas County residents to assist them as much as we can at this point through our social services and other groups that we have here. And I anticipate by the end of this week that, I mean, there's a process that they go through that they must fill out for FEMA for individual assistance. And we have a FEMA rep that's here with us in the EOC right now. We're going through that. I'm hoping that we're going to get out and look at a facility today where our resource center is going to be. So all of that is in motion. And we do have information out there right now about the FEMA forms that individuals do have to complete for individual assistance. And of course, we continue to get that out. We continue to work with FEMA to make sure that that's all out. They will have opportunities if they can't do it online to be able to do it in paper, etc. And you're right, we need to get this done as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Nancy.
Oh, that was the end of my report. I don't know if there's other questions before I go into COVID.
No, COVID. I don't see other hands.
Okay. All right.
Oh, wait, sorry. I couldn't do it quickly enough. Hey, Nancy, you said that you expect smoke to be with us for quite some time because the fires aren't out. And I've also heard that from other press conferences. Do we have any idea if the smoke levels are expected to rise to be unhealthy or for any types of groups, or are we just going to see this from green to moderate to, I mean, do we have any idea?
I think we're going to see it ebb and flow, and it's not just smoke from our fires, it's also smoke coming up from California. So I think we're going to see an ebb and flow. You know, like yesterday started, at least here on the hilltop, started out fine and in the green. And then later in the day, I noticed that it, slipped into the yellow a little bit. So I think people just need to watch that very vigilantly, especially if they have any kind of breathing issues or vulnerable.
But do we expect that it will be unhealthy for the vast majority of us, or?
I really can't answer that. As far as I know, from what I'm hearing, I think it's going to be slipping into the yellow, which is, can be, for some people, but not most. But it also just depends on the winds and how much smoke is, going to be kicking up, south of us in California as well.
Yeah, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but that really helps me to have an educated guess because people ask this question and we just have to play it by ear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Martha.
You're on mute.
Mike.
I'm looking at the weather report, Nancy. So we're going to be expecting more winds tomorrow from the south. Is there any, and with rain, but is that going to kind of start driving some more possibilities with,
Yeah, with possible debris flows and down trees. That is possible. We're watching that storm system that's coming through very closely. The good thing is that the fire activity will decrease with it, but they're definitely, if there's unstable, like hillsides that have been burned, if we have trees that, the root system is burned out, could come down, etc. We could have slides, especially on some roads that are vulnerable. So yes, we are watching that closely.
Okay, but you're not seeing it fanning necessarily any more flames then? That's what, I mean,
No, they said yesterday on the briefing, they said that, yeah, that it will not cause any behavioral concerns with the fire.
okay, thank you for that. Thanks.
All right, I don't see any other hands.
Okay, thank you. Okay, for COVID, to go through our numbers for today, Oregon has 30,995 positives, 529 deaths, 607,284 negatives. Clackamas County has now 2,273 positives, 61 deaths, 57,026 negatives. Multnomah County has 6,853 positives, 133 deaths, 133,888 negatives. Washington County, 4,315 positives, 58 deaths, 87,792 negatives. Hospitalization statewide is 169, which I know is up from last week. The number in ICU beds is 34. The number on vents is 13. We have 207 adult ICU beds that are available statewide. So the Clackamas weekly cases for 9/14 through 9/20, it was 107. We did see quite an increase over the weekend, which I know we've been talking about, and how we did expect that is the testing sites reopened, and people probably were more comfortable going out and getting some tests done. We're now, that's 25.6 per 100,000 population. Our outbreak summaries, so we're working on 25 outbreaks here in Clackamas County. 10 of those are in workplaces. 5 of those are food and farm. Long-term care facilities retirement is 10. Daycares is 0. Healthcare settings is 0. And other is 0. And again, that is a count of 25. Dr. Present and Philip Mason Joyner, of course, will be here with me on Thursday to talk about the metrics that we'll get Wednesday afternoon, and to go over any other details that you need in our numbers for the week. And that is my COVID update.
Paul.
Well, I certainly will look forward to Thursday in a more detailed discussion with Dr. Present. My question is, and this might be more for Jim, but you know, a week or so ago, Jim, you were mentioning that a discussion with the chairs about considering phase 2. Just like to have an update. Number of inquiries. I don't know if it's generated from our discussion or it's just the need, or businesses that are hanging on by a thread right now are hoping that we go into phase 2. I'm sure there's multiple factors, but you have any update for us, Jim, on what how it looks, or Nancy?
Well, next Wednesday, not this week after this Wednesday, those same folks will be on the phone with the chairs, and that's our health people and our doctors will be looking at the metrics. So far, none of us have been able to achieve total check marks on the metrics. We each have at least 2 as of my understanding this week. So we'll be talking about that next week. And that's about as much as I can tell you right now. We figure we had to wait a minimum of 21 days after Labor Day, which I believe, what's today?
Today is the 22nd.
Yeah, so we're about 21 days. But then the fires came, and we have to wait until our testing facilities are back up and our labs are giving us more results. So we're hoping that by next Wednesday, we'll have a little better idea. And of course, you'll get an update on Wednesday from whoever takes notes, probably.
Okay, well, great. And maybe, you know, I'll ask again, probably more questions on Thursday. So thanks for the update.
Bet. Any other questions of Nancy? I'm not going to attempt to let her go until Gary says okay. So Gary?
Thank you. I would like you to stay, Nancy, for the next one. If you could bring in Jennifer Hughes. There's a request, commissioners, for a ZDO waiver under the COVID-19 emergency declaration. You were sent materials about that as part of your packet. So Jennifer Hughes, our planning director, will give you a briefing on this and seeking if you want to move forward or not. So Jennifer, please go ahead.
Sure. Cheryl Bell's in the audience also, if you want to bring her in. I think maybe she was going to say a few words. But I'm happy to just jump right into the proposal. So you'll recall that several weeks ago, maybe it's been longer than that, the time seems to kind of go quickly and slowly all at the same time these days. You authorized, in addition to your emergency declaration for COVID-19, waivers, potential waivers of the zoning and development ordinance for certain temporary uses to facilitate social distancing and compliance with the governor's executive orders. We have the first one of those potential waivers for you today. Kaiser is proposing to conduct drive-through flu shot clinics in the northwest corner of the Clackamas Town Center parking lot. They're proposing 6 days a week for approximately 3 months. They would like to start this coming weekend. You've been provided with the site plan, the signage plan, and a description of the proposal. Planning routed this to the building department, to traffic engineering, and to public health. And we have also put the applicant in touch with the fire marshal's office because the fire marshal does regulate the temporary tents and potentially might have an interest in the propane they're proposing. They're looking at 3 drive-through lanes, a temporary job trailer, portable toilets, which would be just for the staff, not for the actual customers coming for the vaccinations. It does require a waiver of certain ZDO provisions because we would normally require a design review for development that would last this long. It's longer than our normal event policy would permit. And the type of structures wouldn't meet the building design standards for permanent development. In addition, the signage plan wouldn't comply with our requirements for temporary signage. So I think it does meet the terms of what you established for a potential waiver because the improvements are temporary, because they do facilitate socially distanced flu shot delivery. And of course, flu shots are more important this year than ever, as we all know. Public health had some comments in terms of best practices for this. Those have been forwarded to the applicant, and they have already started working on a plan for walk-up traffic, which was one of the things that public health had commented on because there's a transit station there that they might want to accommodate walk-ups. So they have started working on that. And public health also noted that the county is interested in partnering with Kaiser to offer flu shots for non-Kaiser patients, and they're looking to do that maybe 1 day a week in October. So I am happy to answer any questions, but certainly the planning department recommends approval of this waiver.
I can jump in real quick and give you building codes real fast too. Building codes is in support of this. It's temporary structures. It's less than 180 days. We did recommend an electrical permit for the temporary electrical. And like Jennifer mentioned, the fire marshal's involved. We have indicated to the applicant that they need to coordinate directly with fire marshal because tents under 180 days in the propane are under the fire marshal's jurisdiction. So if you have any questions about that as well, I'm here.
Well, I think this is a good test for when we have a COVID vaccine. We might learn a lot from this. So I think it's a great idea. Ken?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In Texas, they have been doing drive-through COVID testing for several months now, and it's been very effective in getting more people tested for COVID. So I would strongly support doing this. It will get more people having their flu shots. And it's, as somebody just pointed out, I guess it was you, a great idea in terms of COVID shots when the time comes. So it's a good test run on that. So I'm prepared to move to approve at your discretion.
Well, I don't see any other hands. Make the motion.
Move to approve as presented by staff.
Second.
It has been moved and second to approve the applicant. And any further discussion? Christina, please poll us.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Humbertson?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
And Chair Bernard.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And Nancy, you can go now too if you wish. Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Nancy.
Next, this is not on your agenda, but one item that came up yesterday, and I emailed you about it, commissioners. There is another abandoned motorhome, this time in the Sandy area, asking if the board would take action. You could read, I hope you read the email. A quick recap, commissioners, you did have a policy session about the topic of abandoned RVs or motorhomes. You did not take action, although staff is going to bring back to you options. But this is just a one-off, what you'd like to do with this. Stephen, would you like to add anything, please?
Yes, commissioners, you got an email from a resident who lives off of Paha Loop Drive in Sandy. Apparently it was an RV that was abandoned and then it's got caught on fire. And that would make it 10 now RVs abandoned within the county that we are aware of. And as Gary said, we had a policy session on this and the recommendation was to come back with some type of cost recovery plan. It hasn't come back to you because there will never be a cost recovery plan. This is like picking up litter is what this is. These people don't have money and these are typically unregistered, unlicensed vehicles. So this is going to have to find a pot to pick from somewhere. We're not going to be able to bill the property owner and or the last registered owner because the chain of title on these is oftentimes impossible to find the last people who actually had possession of it. And it's likely that they're probably borderline destitute as well. What I recommend the board direct is that to have this office be lead on getting a cost estimate provided to us by the Sergeant's Towing Group, which is the one group we currently have under contract, which did tow the last RV 44-foot long vehicle from Clear Creek Road, the one that Dave Terry complained about, and the one he expressed a lot of appreciation for its removal. I recommend that you give us some direction to see what the cost would be collectively to get rid of every single one of these that we currently have. And before we expend anything, I could come back and discuss it with you and present it to you so we at least have a dollar amount identified. If you want me to focus on this one, I can, but this is the last in the line of 9 others that are currently out there. So that's what we have presently. I told you before, it's a problem that is reoccurring and it will not go away.
Well, my concern is the storage. So turning in a title thing and getting ownership so that we can tow it directly to a junkyard is the thing of greatest interest to me. The storage can be huge. So, I mean, I would put in an application as soon as we hear of an abandoned vehicle and try to take ownership so we can go directly to the wrecking yard. That's my biggest concern. Paul?
Well, you know, there are state laws with regard to transfer of title. There are state laws with regard to abandonment. There are state laws with regard to dumping debris and garbage, littering, so on. So I don't want to, you know, unfortunately have the word out on the street that suddenly Clackamas County is the place to bring bring and dump your stuff. And we're just going to take it away for free based on one email or a phone call. I am totally sensitive to how that is an eyesore and how that impacts the neighborhoods and so on. But I don't want to encourage more of that by simply, you know, using taxpayer dollars to make it go away for someone's oversight. I sell a vehicle, I'm required to list the transfer of that title, the date, who I transferred it to, and so on. That's a requirement we all have when we sell a vehicle. So granted, that might be something that ultimately becomes uncollectible, but I think people need to know that there is consequences if they're found and they're doing it. And I know we have some sophisticated surveillance in our forest for our dump stoppers program. But I don't want this to be a runaway expense for our taxpayers.
Ken?
The problem is this is a choice we have to make between 2 bad options.
Yeah.
It's obviously a livability issue in the communities and where they get abandoned, and it obviously is going to cost us some money. But I would opt on the livability side, because I think to some degree it is like graffiti. If you don't take care of it right away, it really does get worse. It doesn't mean that graffiti goes away entirely, but you see a whole heck of a lot less of it when you take care of it quickly. So I would submit that Mr. Madcor's proposal is a good idea. Let's find out what the costs are. I'm sure he will consult with Gary about where we can fund it from. And if there are the opportunities to hold somebody accountable, I would assume that our legal team would do that. But I suspect that that's going to be few and far between, frankly.
So I agree. Yes,
Well,
Steve.
I just want to restate that my issue here is pursuing or having some efforts to pursuing and holding people accountable for dumping those vehicles.
Yep, I agree.
No problem. I'm okay with that. We just, like I said, we have a choice between two bad things, and I think the worst one is allowing it to grow.
So as I explained to the board beforehand, in August, we did pursue the two cases that we had before us. One was an abandoned car over in the TS parking lot. One was the abandoned RV on Clear Creek. We pursued the last known registered owner who had it registered back in like 2004 was one of them. They moved to Texas. They sold it to people up here. There is no penalty if the prior owner sells their vehicle and they file with DOT that they sold the vehicle. There is a penalty on an individual who buys a vehicle and doesn't register it within 30 days, but it's a traffic violation is the penalty associated with that. It is not a pay us the cost of removing this. In both of those situations, everybody I spoke to said that they ended up selling it or giving it away to somebody off of Craigslist. It's a scheme that I find believable, quite frankly, because all these people responded to my letters and phone calls. So I found their version credible, that they give these things away and people use them until they no longer function. You could pursue a legislative fix, making for greater penalties for people who do not register when they sell the vehicle if they do not give the name and address of the actual buyer. Because there's a lot of the DMV form right now says, I sold this vehicle. It doesn't necessarily say that you sold it to these particular people. So that would prolong the chain of title and maybe implement some greater civil liability for that as well. And currently there is no civil liability or criminal liability for a vehicle owner who transfers it and registers that transfer with DMV. If they do that, they are clear of any liability. And the ones that we have seen, they had done that. So I haven't looked at all the other 9, but we did pursue it in the first 2 instances and it came up empty.
Oh,
Yeah, I would like to look at the legislative fix, because in practicality, in the practical world, you can't title a vehicle without a bill of sale. The bill of sale must identify the seller and the purchaser, and that is required by DMV. So there's a gap there, and that gap needs to be filled, and people need to be held responsible. That's just the way it is. And you know, frankly, a bill of sale with a driver's license number and all that stuff would be a great fix. Again, this is something I think it would benefit not just Clackamas County, but the entire state.
all right. Let's get through this, Ken.
Yeah. The problem is if somebody is given the vehicle and they park it on private property and they use it until it wears out and then dump it on a public road someplace and walk away from it, there's no way you're going to know who they were. And I think that's part of what we're facing. I agree, let's pursue a legislative fix. Is there authority under the county to pass an ordinance that could help us on that? That's directed to Stephen.
you're dealing with vehicles, you're dealing with DMV, you're dealing with a statewide problem. I would recommend going to Salem for this. And I think that,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
I had to ask.
we're gonna let Stephen work this out and let us know where we're at, and then pursue legislative effort. I'm sure Multnomah County, Washington County, be happy to join with us on this issue. All right. Next item, Gary.
All right, thank you. Next, a review of your business meeting agenda for this Thursday, September 24th. You have a public hearing to accept a transfer of a road, let's see, Clackamas County to the city of Estacada for a portion of Glen Avenue and Hinman Road. And then you have a very short consent agenda. That is your business meeting for this Thursday. If you have any questions, please let me know prior to Thursday. Final topic is Commissioner Communications.
Wow. So let's start with Martha.
Okay, well, I did get a chance to go out to Malala, and it was pretty scary out there. Actually, a lot of homes lost. Talked to the mayor, Commissioner-elect or Chair-elect Smith was there, and it's pretty devastating out in the rural areas. There's a lot of, as usual in this county, mistrust of government, a lot of angst, a lot of feeling like they haven't been listened to, which is perception, not reality. But just to let folks know they're there. And a lot of, I think that what was most intriguing to me is a lot of the folks in the area I visited, which was right up by the fires. I'm not even sure we were supposed to be there. Really got private donations of equipment and actually did fire line work. And the danger in that is, of course, you don't want people to get hurt. The good news is they did have a few folks there who really did at least have some knowledge. Past Representative Roger Beyer and his brother actually kind of are very knowledgeable and know how to do that kind of work. And they also had a young fellow from PGE who was not representing PGE, but because he lives up in that neighborhood, at least they got some things going. So we're going along, my opinion is we're going to have, or my observation is that we're going to have a long road ahead to get that trust in government pretty much back, if we ever had it at all. I mean, that's a pretty rough and tough area up there. And I know that the mayor of Malala and his city manager were also feeling as if they weren't, communicated with. And again, my sense is that is perception, not reality. However, we're going to have to be really careful as we move forward with any kind of a debrief with them, because we don't want it to devolve into what's negative, but what was done right. Part of the issue, these are small communities, or comparatively speaking, I don't know how, I think Malala is at least 10,000, if not bigger, but they kind of band together and they kind of do their own community thing. Ken had an opportunity, I know, to go to Estacada. I haven't been to Estacada yet, but it was really enlightening. A lot of, like I said, a lot of damage. One individual said to me, he lost everything in his business. House is intact. But like, to give you an example, one of the comments was, he said, I've worked all my life to pay taxes, and now I'm one of those welfare people that, that kind of a thing. So be aware that there's going to be some pretty intense sentiments out there. And we're going to have to really handle a debriefing, I think, in a pretty in a pretty sophisticated way to try and get people not to get so negative. So, and I want to thank Gary, because I probably shouldn't have gone, but I went anyway. But There's just a lot of devastation. It's pretty heartbreaking. And I think we need to remind people in our area that all that ash and smoke that fell on us also included people's homes out in the rural areas. So.
All right, I just want to let you know that we did do weekly mayors and chairs meetings.
Oh, I know you did.
And frankly, many people never said a word.
I know.
Never said a single word. But so they certainly got updates. Knowing where to look is helpful, just like us. We don't always know where to look, but we did our best to communicate. Gary, along with the city managers, were working together. Me and the mayors and the city managers and Nancy and the fire folks, they were all there. So we did our best. So I'm not feeling that we failed anyone, frankly.
No.
But
to be honest, we didn't fail anyone. That's not, honest to goodness, Jim, that's not what I'm trying to relate.
I know.
It's just that they don't see the entire infrastructure that's in place the way we see the entire infrastructure. And remember, they're small town volunteer folks. Yeah. And they kind of got a bit of a chip on their shoulder anyway. So I'm just giving you an update. That's kind of what we're dealing with. Yep. And we're going to have to remind them without confronting them. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of what we're going to remind them that, yeah, no, we really did a pretty darn good job with them. So, all right.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, well, I won't echo what Commissioner Schrader spoke to. I have been attending every opportunity for either updates on the wildfires or anything related to the wildfires. I think the last one that I referenced earlier today was the one with Congressman Schrader. The mayor of Malala was in attendance to that meeting. And it was Marion County, Lincoln County, and Clackamas County. Congressman Schrader did offer his assistance and assured us that the delegation was behind us for whatever we needed. So that was refreshing. Yeah, when it comes to the businesses, what I want to remind people, I is definitely as a business owner, virtually my entire adult life, I can relate to those impacts. I haven't lost a business in that kind of way, and however, that we got to remember that most businesses out there are small businesses, and that's where most of our people work, have jobs. And not only is it a loss for the business owner, and their livelihood, but it's also the livelihood of the people who work there. So that's equally as devastating when someone loses their job. And to tack this on, we've had tragedies like this as a result of COVID prior to the fires. So this is just another this is punch 2 of the 1-2 punch, and it's just devastating to people. So we've if this recession that's been declared is as deep as it's going to be, I think we need to be ready for what we went through 10 years ago. I want to just shift slightly and talk about something I had a meeting on yesterday that went long. It went into the lunch hour with ODOT, but basically, I won't talk about the meeting about ODOT, but I will talk about the subject matter that led to that, and also Thursday's JPAC meeting, which I didn't really talk about at the business meeting. And that is really on the broad subject of all these studies for congestion pricing and tolling, basically tolling our local roads. This initially started, for those of you who know, and those of you who are listening, this started as a mandate out of HB 2017 to toll I-205 and I-5. It's taken off and ran away with itself, and so Portland's doing its study of congestion pricing study of its roads. Metro announced, and I was under the impression that they were doing something different, but they are engaging in a region-wide, including Clackamas County, tolling study, and as a means to somewhat ameliorate any kind of diversion The problem with that is that I-205 is right up against our rural areas, and they don't have jurisdiction out over there. So I don't know how this is going to work, but I made the statement Thursday. I got agreement from a number of the people around the table at JPAC that if there is a region-wide move to toll every road in this region and not offer people alternatives, it's frankly extraction of their hard-earned dollars, and that is just woefully unfair. So I just want to alert you all that this topic is about to it's like a powder keg. And it's going to be a political wildfire, so to speak. And I'm very concerned about this. And I tried to get ahead of this because I was told that that when I asked about the Metro study, I was told it's not a tolling study, it's a vehicle miles traveled, or a VMT study. Well, I learned the hard way, apparently on Thursday, that they're engaged in this. So I'm going to be seeking out all that information about that and our involvement in that, and as far as where that geographically starts and ends. Is there a boundary to that? Because that we can't have another hit for those employees I spoke to earlier that are still employed or get new jobs that live in the rural areas that need to commute into the region, to have another tax and another financial burden on top of all the other things with accelerated costs in housing. I mean, it's a trifecta of a storm that we just can't let our citizens bear that. So again, I want to alert you to that, and I'm working hard on that, and that's where I'll stop for today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sonia?
Yeah, thanks, Paul, for that update on the study for the congestion pricing. I just think it would be terrible if Clackamas County was singled out as tolling us in our area. We got to be on top of that. So thank you for sharing. That's really good. I spent some time over the weekend going out to the evacuation sites. I visited one of the sites at the church in Oak Grove and had some good conversations with the staff there, the volunteers, and some of the residents at the shelter. And my big takeaway from that experience is people that are in need really don't believe that there will be help for them. And that was pretty heartbreaking to come face to face with that with folks. Also, how many were able to get out to Gladstone? Did everybody make it out there, or no? Just thumbs up or no thumbs up? So no, okay. So I would encourage every commissioner to go out to the Gladstone site, because that is where I believe Gary may have an update. I didn't ask Nancy, but there are quite a few of the evacuees that are there in RVs, and it's quite the operation out there. Folks feel pretty supported, but at the same time, it's really scary to not have a home to go back to and try to figure out how to put the pieces of your life back together again in transition. And all of the work that's going into that is just extraordinary. So it's a good place to go to really connect with folks, and I really encourage my fellow commissioners to do that. And they're really thankful to have us there. I'm sure that with Commissioner Schrader, you're going out to Malal, even though you weren't supposed to do that. You're braver than I am.
No,
I'm waiting for staff to facilitate that for me, but because I'm just itching to go and really connect with folks as well.
No, I had to apologize to Gary because I kind of went rogue, but it was, it was really where it all happened. It was pretty scary. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're all very committed to serving our constituents, and we want firsthand knowledge and firsthand information because it helps us make better decisions for sure. There is a Reimagine meeting on Friday. I can only participate for an hour. I'm hoping I can ask another commissioner to join me during that call and could stay for the second hour. I know Paul, who's been part of it has other things that were scheduled on Friday, which makes him unavailable. Is anyone else available?
I don't know. Ken, why don't you?
What was the time on that? I think I had to take it off my calendar because I had something else, another commitment.
It's from 11 to 1.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah, I might be able to drop in on it, but I have I had a different commitment that was on the calendar for months, frankly.
Okay.
I can't do it.
No, and I
I
can't
may
either.
be able to drop in the middle of it if what I'm doing that starts at 11:30 gets over early enough. That's the
Okay,
best.
well, I can be there for the first hour. I'll let them know that I can only be there for the first hour, but I do find that the information that's shared is useful and helpful, especially at the beginning of the meetings. So, okay, that's all I've got.
Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like others, I've spent some time going to evacuation shelters and that sort of thing, and continue to help with the food box program. So those kind of things keep you busy. Yesterday, I was able to coordinate that with the mayor of Estacada and go to their operation where they are providing food, clothing, sundries, toys, children's supervision, etc. at Casadero restaurant right there in Estacada for the citizens. Incredible job that they are doing there. The volunteers were wonderful. Blount Industries is there doing something that they did at Clackamas Community Colleges. They've brought in a truck. The firefighters drop off their chainsaws. The chainsaws get sharpened, oiled, repaired, whatever they needed. When the firefighters are ready to go back out on the line, they just drop by, pick up their saw, and out to the line they go. So they get a chance to rest and sleep and don't have to worry about maintaining their chainsaws. A real shout out to Blount Industries for what they're doing. And there are many other companies that are helping out. The mayor, the fire chief, the head of their community watch group, and I did take a brief tour of some of the burned out areas near town. You can't take pictures because we don't know who is aware of the condition of their homes and who is not. So I don't have any photographs, but we did see homes that were burned out, others that survived the fire, some areas where forest burned thoroughly, and then other areas where it completely skipped. It was really interesting.
Good.
I think a lot of it was a direct result of the high winds, because the fire chief commented that it wasn't ash that was blowing, it was literally coals that were blowing. And if people had detritus in their gutters of their houses, oftentimes that's what causes house fires. So I'll say what I've said online before: clean the gutters at your house if you've got trees around, because you can get a fire in there and that'll burn your house down. One thing that was obvious, and this is related to what Commissioner Schrader talked about in her tour in Malala, is certain information didn't get down to the ground. And one of those things was the professional fire people pulled back and focused on saving lives. And most of the folks on the ground didn't realize that was really what drove the decision-making by the fire services. That was their first priority. And that also meant not putting their own people in danger in uncontrolled fire situations, smoke where you can't see, planes can't go in the air because of the winds and the smoke to put out the fire. And those are the pieces of information that a lot of the citizens out there weren't aware of. Some may have been, but not everybody. The metric that the fire services use for success more than any other metric is loss of life. And I need to put it out on the table. We have lost no lives in Clackamas County as a result of these fires. That cannot be said in other areas of Oregon or California. So our people did an incredibly good job in making sure that people were protected. The fire chief also made another comment, and that is he's well aware that citizens oftentimes will go and help out, even though it's recommended that they don't, but he understands why they do. He used as an example the flooding and hurricanes in the southern part of the United States, where people get out in their flat bottom boats and they go out and they rescue their neighbors and others who are left behind. So they do understand why people do it. They don't recommend it because it isn't safe, but kudos to the folks that did try to save homes and whatnot like that. But keep in mind, the most important metric was loss of life. And we didn't lose anybody in Clackamas County. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a basement flooded, so I'm gonna go home and pump the basement out and try to prepare for the next rainstorm. So I don't want to take too much time. There will be lots of people to thank. Omar, and of course, I have both of my pharmacist and my dentist office personnel had 40 to 50 people work to save their houses. And my dentist office person said that it was literally their houses across the driveway and the fire was up to the driveway. So thank you to all those people who did risk their lives and help neighbors. It saved a lot. It's also true that she had a nephew who went to check on her house who was surrounded by a pickup load of people with guns patrolling the roads. So rumors about looting and stuff, we should make sure that we always make sure that the facts are the facts. And with that, I'm gonna look at my crystal ball. Things are gonna get better. And hope is really important. And there's a lot of hope, a lot of people working to make things better. And thanks to our staff here at EOC, 911, our fire personnel, ambulance folks, and the incredible work done by county staff to get us through these 2 or 3 tragic events. And there is hope. So with that, we're adjourned till 1:30. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.